Meanwhile, a call from stakeholders in the water sector for persons living and working in watershed areas to stop destroying those areas. The appeal came on Wednesday at a discussion looking at solutions for the current and future droughts. TVJ's Dwayne Anderson was there and has this report.
Last week in Parliament, Prime Minister Andrew Holness told the nation to pray for rain. Well, it seems those prayers have been answered, somewhat, because on Wednesday, an official from the National Water Commission, NWC, made a revelation that will come as good news for residents of the corporate area.
Well, we are currently, the moon is currently at about 27% at this time. We have seen some rain in the Hermitage watershed. We are back up to about 35%. So the rain is beginning to fall, so I would rather say we are in a better position.
He, however, cautioned that the dry times won't end until the seasonal heavy rains return. But for some of these stakeholders, those rains would bring a different problem, meaning persons are likely to forget about the plans to combat the drought. They are therefore using the current crisis to get an important message across. Firstly, they want residents, especially farmers, to take better care of the watershed around the Hope and Yallas rivers by replanting trees or not cutting down any at all. These rivers are among the primary sources of water for Kingston, St. Andrew and St. Thomas.
The protection of the watershed would ensure that we have more water in the future. It's one of the services that the ecosystem provides. So once we do all the best practices, that's the replant and do the proper farming practices on your own properties, both residents and both farmers, it will ensure it's not a panacea, it's not a fix-all. You will still have drought because that's a climatic thing. So it's not going to say that you will never have water lockups. You will still have reduced water output, but with improving the environment and try and ensure that we still have some of the services that the environment provides, which one of it is water.
The Water Resources Authority WRA also suggested the government explore what is called interbasin transfer. This is essentially moving water from watersheds in other parishes to help meet the needs of people in the corporate area.
There are water in other areas of the country that can be moved, but it will be costly. But that is something that the government could look at, to move water from other basins to transfer to Kingston and St. Catherine to augment the supply.
The stakeholders met on Wednesday to discuss the findings of the Hope Yallas watershed project. The project was undertaken to identify the practices of the people living around those two major watersheds and how to address the negative impact of their activities. The group's project manager, Laureen Jones, says a fund will be needed to fix the damage done to the ecosystem of these parts. Dwayne Anderson, TVJ News.
With the start of the hurricane season just a couple of weeks away, farmers in Monticott in St. Thomas are pleading for the government and the National Solid Waste Management Authority to remove a garbage pile that they say has been a nuisance in the community. The stifling stench and swarms of flies were evident at the entrance of the small farming community when our news team visited the area this week. The garbage at the makeshift disposal site includes animal intestine, old refrigerators and plastic bottles. Farmer Everton Anderson laments that no one has been to the area to collect the garbage or to address their concerns.
The scent is killing me over there because we have houses over there and we have some young children. And further on, we have whole heap of police on a scheme that's behind the cameraman. And no matter how we complain to them, nobody not seem to do nothing. Like they don't care, like the scent don't affect them. It's only one way the breeze blowing. So it's only over my end, but it's not blow over for them end. So all those things going to wash down into the sea, right? And then we buying the said fish where the fish is going to be contaminated, right? Because these yog were coming from up on this riverside, going straight to the sea. And then you have the young babies, the young children them. As the water come down, you see them bathing in it, and the yog, they topside them. So something really have to be done towards it.
Welcome back to Primetime News. Special welcome to the folks watching on onespotmedia.com. We begin with news that the 2 policemen at the center of the controversial shootings in Spanish Town, St. Catherine, are to be charged with murder. The Director of Public Prosecutions, DPP Paula Llewellyn, made the ruling today. It was delivered to the Independent Commission of Investigations, INDICOM, this morning. TVJ's Anthony Lugg has the story.
The incident involving 2 off-duty cops on April 28 is one that left the reputation of the Jamaica Constabulary Force in tatters. Just over 2 weeks later, a ruling by the Director of Public Prosecution, Paula Llewellyn, Corporal Romain Scott and Kirk Fraser should be charged. Each officer will be charged jointly with 7 offences. Corporal Scott is to be charged separately with 2 other offences. The charges include manslaughter, shooting with intent, and illegal possession of firearm and ammunition. In a release today, the Independent Commission of Investigation, INDICOM, said Corporal Scott is further charged with illegal possession of firearm and illegal possession of ammunition for that firearm. The officers are expected to appear before the Home Circuit Court on Monday. The shootings, which involved 2 off-duty cops and a team of officers from Mobile Reserve, resulted in Sheldon Jr. Biggs Daly being shot dead at Chedwin Park. This was followed by a police officer as well as a civilian being killed after a high-speed chase ended in a motor vehicle crash. It was reported that more shots were also fired. The police officers who are to be charged have given contradicting versions of the incident. Days after, National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang announced a major shakeup in the police force, including news that the Mobile Reserve Unit to which the alleged rogue cops are attached will be disbanded. The head of Mobile Reserve, Senior Superintendent Terence Bent, has also been sent on leave to facilitate further investigations. Anthony Lugg, TVJ News.
Up first this evening, a student is dead and 23 others injured after a bus overturned into a gully in Black Hill, Portland this afternoon. The students are from the Port Antonio and Titchfield high schools in the parish. TVJ's Andrea Chisholm has details.
A blood-stained bus in a gully in Black Hill, Portland. School shoes and study material belonging to children who were on board and people sharing what they know about the accident. Reports are that minutes after 3 Monday afternoon, the bus was heading towards Buff Bay, negotiating this corner when tragedy struck.
I'm here to break mash on the bus. Here on the mash, so I figure more than less a braking problem and it starts slide. The bus starts slide. And when it slide, when I run come up there, so I see it start spin over. I see it when it make boy 3rd spin coming down. See it make 2 more spin. And I run go out the door.
He then asked the driver and conductor if they were okay. Both were evidently in pain.
So I kick the glass and start to take out some whole party chill students, so my girl them. And then they already one dead. I when they say out for pronouns are in a critical condition. He make last kick, so when he kick about 3 times.
The man said a woman's hand was severed. Another man, Keith Taylor, who came on the scene shortly after the accident, described what he saw.
One side of his face, he has a chop off, man. The whole he has a chop off, and him look like him dead to make a in a machine come like all him body start swell already. Yeah.
The boy later died. Mr. Taylor believes the road surface contributed to the crash.
We think the part of the road there, we have accident frequently there. That make the 3rd bus go over right there, so, but never reach far as I want to. Plus 1 truck did go over sometime in the last year. One guy did pin down in the truck laden with sand. But the road they have a dig out, and I feel like the work agent should have come look on the part of the road a long time and fix it. Because once you start speed up at the top and the corner sudden so, and then you meet the descent and drop in, it create a problem. The vehicle just flip up and then problems start.
Residents in Portland are urging motorists to drive carefully and to say a word of prayer before starting their journey. Andrea Chisholm, TVJ News.
Welcome back to Primetime News and a special welcome to viewers on onespotmedia.com. Anguish and anger in Martha Bray, Trelawney after a mentally ill man allegedly chopped 2 of his relatives to death. The police then shot and killed the mentally ill man. As TVJ's Kirk Wright reports, residents feel the incident could have been avoided if their cries for help were answered.
At minutes to 11 Saturday night, Leon White, a mentally ill man, was busy chopping his mother and his cousin, 56-year-old Esmeralda Gordon and 5-year-old Livon Walker later died. A woman heard Miss Gordon's cry and commotion in the house.
And she goes like, "Whoa, no kill me, Javan, Javan." So he was calling for the little boy. And then me hear like Javan bawl out, say, "Oh." And then she bawl out, "Oh." And then me say, "Coolie, coolie." And no answer.
She says the police came promptly, but not in time to save Miss Gordon and her nephew.
And then when the police came, it was brutal, as they said, not for us to see.
Even though the mentally ill man has a history of attacking other people, the woman cannot understand why he would want to hurt his family members.
He did it before, but with people not from here. Like strangers, he tried to chop them. And one time he went over by my brother's yard and saw one of my brother friend, and he chopped him on his hand.
Now, another woman says Mr. White refused to take his medication, and efforts to get help from the authorities came to naught.
The problem is whenever he acts up and I call the police send me to the mental health nurse send me back to the police. So I have been going back and forth with this situation for a long time. I have reached out to the police, to Falmouth Hospital. I have even called a mental health place in Montego Bay who advised me that Bellevue Hospital has closed down. So this situation has been reported over and over again. So that's what happened.
We need help. You see, all these mad people that they have on the street, they need to take care of them. If you do not take care of them, then they are going to take care of us when it's too late. Because if they were taking care of Duval when we were crying out to help him, this wouldn't happen.
Though mentally challenged, residents say Mr. White had useful skills.
He's a good guy. He have certificate for electrician, and he have certificate for the plumbing, things like that, and he can build house because all these designs he put it in the house.
The police say when they went to apprehend Mr. White, he attacked them with a machete and they fatally shot him. Kirk Wright, TVJ News.
Up first this evening, mourning and grief counseling at Titchfield High School in Portland Tuesday morning over the death of a grade 8 student following Monday afternoon's minibus tragedy in Black Hill. TVJ's Krista Campbell has reactions from the school community in this primetime news follow-up.
Hardly a dry eye at the Titchfield High School in Portland a day after a minibus crashed, claiming the life of 13-year-old Pranjal Jasti. Grief counselors dispatched from the Education Ministry's Region 2 division, students and adults alike in need of consolation. But amidst the tears, thanks from Senior Education Officer Patricia Salmon.
There are 20 of them, 20, Lord, and 19 survived, so we give you thanks for sparing those 19 lives.
The sole fatality, an 8th grade student, remembered especially for his academic strengths.
Very brilliant child, very promising. In fact, only yesterday, the very day he died, he was interviewed by the quiz coaches to be a part of our quiz team.
Principal Richard Thompson says there's still uncertainty about the extent of the injuries of the remaining 19 students.
Ranging from minor cuts and bruises, broken limbs, whiplash, back injury, just to name a few. Some still undetermined, some to do further tests.
A couple others who attended Port Antonio High School were also passengers in the ill-fated minibus which crashed along this corner in Black Hill, Portland, before overturning into a gully sometime after 3 o'clock Monday afternoon. Some residents believe the road surface contributed to the crash, but the principal says others are angry about other circumstances surrounding the deadly incident.
The questions the students are asking, why is it a bus that is supposed to carry 12 or 15 students or people was allowed to take that many?
And while noting the challenges to get public transportation, a parent urged students to be more careful about who they travel with.
When you sit in the vehicle and see them overtaking lines of traffic with you in there, listen, bawl out and tell them, say, stop driving and let me come out, because I don't like how you're driving. And it's always end up that it is the passenger that dies and his driver live.
Krista Campbell, TVJ News.